I'll turn the microphones on here.
Okay. Cool.
Tell me when.
Okay.
How you been?
Okay, we're ready.
You look pretty good.
Okay. Good evening.
there.
This is the Architectural Board of Review. Regular meeting is, well, actually it was August 7th. This is a postponement of that meeting. So we will take the agenda from the August 7th, and right now we'll do a roll call.
Okay, Member Callahan.
Here.
Member Dahlman.
Here.
Member Deegan.
Here.
Chair Hunter.
Here.
Member Kerouac.
Here.
Member Russ.
Here.
And Member Waymeyer is absent.
Okay, the minutes of July 10th. Any comments, changes, corrections? Just want to chat about them? No? Okay, somebody want to make a motion? I can't.
Move to approve as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm assuming there's not going to be any more conversation about that, so all in favor of the minutes of July 10th, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, wake up. Okay, let's see. Go back to this one. So this is the church. Public hearing to review a site plan for pergola and patio for the Union Church at 525 East Prospect. Since this is a public hearing, we have to do the swear-in, right?
Right, that's right.
Okay, so anybody that's going to speak to the project, all right, then you have to stand up and state your name, and I'm going to swear you in by saying, repeat after me, I think, yeah.
I, John Hirsch,
Okay. Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
to tell the whole truth, the whole truth, but nothing but the truth.
Okay, however, that's close.
Got it.
That's it, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's your ball game there, whoever's going to make the big pitch, and I assume that's you.
It would be me, since I'm the one who's talking.
That's right.
My name is John Hirsch. I'm with Kirkle Cobbles, and also a member of the Union Church. We met before this board previously with a previous design that people did like, but we determined that it was a little more formal than our church. I mean, we're an informal church. We're an informal group of people. We kind of wanted to do something a little more informal and also do something with native plants. So Cliff Miller is a friend of mine. I work with him on a lot of projects, and we asked him to get involved because we had an interest in doing native plants. I'm going to pass this around, and you can take a look at these. I know you have some of the information already. But, so I asked Cliff to get involved, and we looked at the plants, we looked at the style of the design, we wanted to create something a little more informal, and I think that this design did. So, the design that you're looking at doesn't just have the courtyard, it also has the new manse landscaping, which is drawn onto the plan. So, they're really two separate spaces, and that was part of our intention, is to create some privacy for the manse and to create a courtyard that was really connected to the church and almost a park-like atmosphere. That was the idea. So without further ado, we met with Cliff. He came up with some ideas. He sketched them out. He came up with some native and native R plants. And this is what you see on the new plan. It's actually not tremendously different than the previous design that you saw, only in as much that it has more rounded corners and a rounded altar and so forth, and then a different pergola. So without further ado, it's kind of hard to see on this level of plan, but I think you all have plans there. There is quite a large courtyard, and we're going to be using the same clay brick. I actually have some samples of the brick in my car. I don't know.
Sure.
Would people want to see samples of the brick and stone that we're using?
If you have them, that's fine.
I have them in my car. Do you mind
If
grabbing
you
them?
don't, we're gonna, well, I'm speaking
parked,
for myself. I'm gonna trust that you people know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary.
White,
It's not, no, it's not.
Toyota Highlander.
We don't need.
There's 3 bricks, a piece of stone, and a 12 by 12 paver. So basically what it is, it's
No, that's a lot of him for him to
I know it is, but I think he can handle it. I know him. I'm going to depend on him. If he has to make 2 trips, we'll deal with that. So basically, the front of the church has what's called an endicott dark iron spot clay brick, which is a brick that comes out of Nebraska. It is brownish purple in color, and you'll see it shortly. It's a clay brick, so it's never going to fade. That's what the majority of the walks and the majority of the terrace is made of. We're using a man-made stone from Rochester Products, which is a company out of Minnesota, and that is going to provide a stone-like look on the altar and down the center of the courtyard, and it separates out the seating area for us. And then there's a small inlay at the city sidewalk. We added, at the request of the village to become ADA compliant, we added a concrete walk and ramp that leads up to the altar. We hid it behind on the right-hand side closest to the church. It's hidden behind some plants, but and a pillar for the pergola. And we left open right now the space behind the altar. I think eventually we're going to look at doing a playground area there because it comes out from our nursery. But at this point in time, we just wanted to focus on the courtyard. There are 2 big areas of lawn, 2 big lawn panels right there, and then a privacy hedge between the manse, which is just east of here, which we own, and the driveway in the courtyard. And then we have quite a bit of privacy behind the altar as well. But the idea was to keep it as open as possible from Prospect so that people could feel like we're inviting them into our space. I mean, we really wanted to create a space that people felt like they can just walk in and use. And because the church is only going to be using it typically on Sundays or for weddings or occasions like that. So the idea was we like to feel as open as possible to people just dropping by or hanging out there or whatever. There are going to be a couple benches which are going to be positioned around the courtyard. And this is kind of the blow up of the courtyard. Unfortunately, it's on its side. You can see the pergola is right here, and there's a couple columns in the front, and then the stone right here, stone panel down the middle, and stone outlining here, and then all of the dark is clay brick. The concrete sidewalk and ramp, a handicap accessible ramp is right here, and it comes off of the back parking lot, and then all of this is privacy screening back to the parking lot and so forth. But this is all open right here, and that was the intention. We did remove the spruce with permission from the village, so this is now gone. And if you drive down Prospect now, I don't know if you have, since the manse came down and since the trees came down, but it's wide open, and you can see the whole side of the church, and it's really actually quite attractive. And what we're trying to do is to create, add to that. So this is the pergola structure. We wanted to create something, again, open and aspirational. So it's angled as if it's going up. And it has these walls in the front, which creates the structure for the altar and for weddings and so forth. And then it has these pillars here in the back that support it. And then it's pretty simple structure, but it just adds an effect of an outdoor room. These are lights, and they're under coping lights, so none of the lights are going to be pointing up, being respectful of the dark sky initiatives that a lot of Lake Bluff is trying to take on. So the lights are actually going to go in, bear with me one second. underneath the coping here. So there'll be two of them that wash down in the front and two of them that wash down in the front on the two sides here. And so you'll just have stone lit up from underneath the coping, and that these are nestled in to that space. Thank you. So this is the stone that we're using for the veneer on the pillars. And this is the brick. It's the same brick that we used on our front sidewalk. And this is the decorative, a stone-like paver that's going to be used as, that's the bottom, that's the top. Thank you. So the two of them will go together, and this will form the pathway. And what I wanted to do is to try to, what Cliff wanted to do is to try to play off. We already have an Eden stone wall in the front of the church, and we already have this brick. And we wanted to make it feel like it fit with what has already been done there. And we felt that it did. So that's the paving. And then this Eden machine-cut veneer over here is going to be the vertical face of the step riser on the altar and of these walls and pillars. Like I said, the lights will go underneath the coping in the pillars and also in the steps to kind of allow for people to use it at night, but not light up the whole neighborhood. And then these are examples of the different plants that we're using, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but these are all things that Cliff Miller specified with the idea that we wanted to go low maintenance and native or native-R plants. So you can see there's a lot of color, there's a lot of variety, a lot of texture, and they all fit with what we felt our church is all about, which is an informal, welcoming place for people, and ultimately that's what we thought this park was designed to be. Any questions?
Who wants to start? Tim, you're a resident
Oh, okay.
landscape guy, so.
I saw that you had Carpinus caroliniana there, the musclewood, on the other side. Yeah. I didn't see that on the drawing here.
I didn't put the PowerPoint together, so I think,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but, and I'm not a plant specialist, so.
Okay.
I don't. It's probably in the manse, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, if you look on the overall drawing that shows the work with the manse, you will see that.
Okay. Is there going to be an irrigation system?
No?
No. Do you have a plant schedule with like sizes and?
I do, I can send
Quantities?
that to you, yeah. I didn't bring it for tonight's meeting because I didn't think
Yeah.
that would be.
Let's see. And then the lawn areas are going to be sodded? I suppose?
Seeded.
Seeded?
That was
Okay.
the idea, is they would be seeded. Every contractor that we talked to said that they thought seed would take better than sod.
Is there any specific preparation you're going to have with the planting beds?
Yeah, Cliff has a schedule, so
Okay.
he is defining and again, that's outside of my area expertise, but
Yeah.
Cliff had a definition of the way he wanted all the beds prepped, the way he wanted the lawns prepped, and we gave that information to all the contractors who
Okay.
are bidding on it.
Okay. Yeah, everything else looks fine though. Like, it all makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a nice space. I mean, the idea was to create a place where people, like literally walking down the sidewalk on Prospect, could say, hey, I want to go hang out here. And it's quiet. There's going to be 4 benches so people can go and sit there. It's just a nice space. Other questions?
Neil?
I guess I've only got one question. Right behind where the altar is, there's going to be a fence. Is that a,
Yeah,
what kind of fence is it?
the fence may not happen at this point in time, but it's going to be a cedar board on batten fence, I believe. So the fence there may not happen based upon budget. It's shown on the plan, but it may not be done.
Existing chain link fence in the.
There is an existing chain link fence which may or may not stay at this point in time based upon budget.
And if we do put a fence in, it'll be a 4-foot scallop cedar fence.
So we got pricing from Stars Fence and Lake Bluff, and they gave us a number of options. We haven't settled on the exact option as of yet, but at the end of the day, if we have enough money, the chain link fence will go, and that cedar fence will actually move out a little bit further from where it is currently.
It almost makes sense because behind that's the parking lot.
Yes, correct.
So it almost makes sense to replace, if you have the funds, to replace the existing chain link fence with the cedar fence.
Well, that's the idea, is not only would it go behind the courtyard, by the parking lot, but it also, the same fence is also going to go around the backyard of the manse, because our pastor has a dog, and so this is important to him.
Okay.
So that fence would be a continuation of the same cedar fence that goes around the manse next door. And it heads back, you can see it heads back towards the north, and it comes almost to the corner of the courtyard. If you look at that would be the east point of the courtyard, that's where the fence corner is.
Okay, that's it.
Ed?
I don't have any, it looks great. I think it's gonna be a nice ad, so I don't have any other major comments.
Matthew?
Are we looking at the pergola also, or is that?
Yeah.
So there's some things with the pergola, I don't know how far we get into just like the connections, like the details on that, I don't know how far we get into that. It's kind of shown incorrectly, like that, the back purlin that carries, it's shown the same width as the front one, and then the back is actually shorter. And I'm not sure how the 2x are sitting on the cross members. So I don't know what to judge on that. I just hopefully that gets all worked out. It just looks very conceptual and not architectural yet.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is.
Yeah.
It's one of the last items we're going to build. My carpenter, the carpenter that we have working with us for building it, will submit
He'll do
more detailed
Okay,
drawings
yeah.
once.
Then
I mean,
I'll
that's
hold-
the idea.
Yeah. Then I'll take it as an idea, and it just looks very tenuous right now, just the way it's drawn, and I don't know if that was the, intent, so, that's all, everything
It's
else looks
conceptual.
great, yeah, then that's fine.
Carol?
Yeah, I had a similar question. I agree with everybody's positive comments. I mean, this will, not only transform the use of that little side yard, that alley, it'll transform the
Yeah.
neighborhood too. It's nicely nested back where people are just going to invent all kinds of great ways to use it.
Yeah.
But it also contributes to the landscape of the neighborhood, too. Well, I don't mean actually literally the landscape, which it does, lots of nice plantings, but, it has a nice setback from the street that respects the residential neighborhood at the same time that it's open and inviting. So I think that's pretty great, and you've got a whole hierarchy of spaces going on. I did have a little bit of anxiety about what the materials were. I wasn't even convinced this would be wood, given the dimensions shown, but I'm sure you will work that out. And I'm glad you explained a few things. I'm glad to hear where the lighting is. That's always a concern in a residential neighborhood, because your needs are very different
Right.
from the way someone uses a house yard, a house lot, and a sensitivity to the lighting is just, lovely. In the future, you might want to make some modifications, but we're not here to talk about that.
Right.
What you're talking about is just a little bit of excitement and accent lighting, which I think makes very good sense. I do like to look at what's presented when people come in with stuff and just see what it is I think you're doing. So, and the area of anxiety that I actually had was with the 3 by 5 foot walls that you have, the platforms. So I'm glad you said that it has a liturgical reason to be there. It has a specific use, because I really was reading it as a wall dividing the people, who are part of a
Right.
ceremony, I don't know, a bride and groom, whatever you might place there on a beautiful
Right.
day, and then the audience. There really is a very firm wall between those two, so I'm glad you explained that it has a reason, because I was confused by that.
Yeah, most of it is open between it, so that space is actually quite spacious for people to fit between it.
Well, it really affects the sight lines, though, when you look at the width of your seating area, and also, as I look at the plan, if I were to put, a wedding party in there, they would be behind that wall, they would not be forward, they would be behind it. A stage usually, opens out this way, it creates a nest for the people, and then it's wide this way rather than closed in this way. So that's why I'm glad to hear that you say it has a specific use perhaps in a service, because that confused me, frankly, looking at it. I was trying to guess what you were going after, and I didn't get it. But your materials are beautiful, whether they're the hardscape that you've created or, the landscaping. It's just so great a concept. I mean, as you build something like this, ideas evolve too, but I think it's a great concept, so applause.
And compared to what was there, I mean, we had the 2 huge overgrown spruces. Nothing grew underneath them. There was a chain link fence, and then the manse was literally located on the axis of so the manse was like right here previously. And obviously that's gone now, so this is going to open up this entire space. And none of this was visible, none of the church was visible, and now it completely is going to be visible all the way from, pretty much all the way along as you drive past on Prospect.
You done, Carol? Is that it?
Yes, I am,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, well, I had some of the same concerns that Carol did about the walls, and, you've explained that, the lighting, you've explained that. I think, one question I do have is, I think this is a very nice, actually, gesture to the public, and I hope there's not any kind of mischief at night. Are the lights going to go off?
Lights typically won't be on, only when the space is in use, so.
I'm just wondering if there's some way to keep the just really low lighting, so that by the time I get back there, people can be a little bit, maybe not feel real comfortable about going back there if they're up to no good.
I think there's other parks in Lake Bluff that you could do
Right.
that more than easily without being, because
Yeah,
it's pretty much wide open. So if a car drives by on Prospect, they're going to be within sight. And again, the manse is right next door, and Pastor Mark and Pastor Tracy are frequently there. So if someone was creating mischief in this space, I think that they would be found out quickly.
Okay, that's fine. And
And the dog will get them.
Well, there you go. Okay, big mastiff in the,
There is a lot of lighting on right now, so maybe a timer glitch there.
A lot of lighting.
Exterior lighting on the building, and the interior of the lot, the parking lot lighting is on.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other wall-mounted lights that are on, so, maybe a timer glitch.
you're right,
but-
it's not dark. It's not dark. Did I miss something that, I assume that the pergola structure is wood?
Yes,
Okay.
it's wood.
All right. Okay, no, I think it's great. I think it's a vast improvement to what was there, and let's get on with it. So, somebody want to make a motion? This goes to the village board, right?
That's right. yeah.
Okay.
I'll move we approve the submission as submitted.
Your second?
A second.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Member Russ.
Aye.
Member Caraway.
Aye.
Member Deegan.
Aye.
Member Dahlman.
Aye.
Member Callahan.
Aye.
And Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Okay. The motion to recommend approval is approved.
Thank you.
I can schedule it for the next board meeting just under 2 weeks, on a Monday, if you'd like. Yep, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Big audience.
A big audience, yeah. Okay, well, this is going to be a tough one.
Oh, yeah, you can, feel free to just pull it out of the side of the computer there. Just get the right one, the other one's for the pointer.
Mine's the red one.
Yeah, let's see, that makes it easy.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
So now we are going to look at the, well, what does the agenda call it?
Here.
Different agenda.
Stole your agenda.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Public hearing to review new antennas and equipment on the cell tower at 45 East Center. There's nobody here to swear, except us. So this is another piece of equipment that's going to go on the existing platform level, whatever it is,
Correct.
right?
Weren't they just here? Like,
You know, somebody
this
comes
year,
around with a piece of gear, and we go, look, where's it go? All the cables inside, okay, go for it. And the guy comes from, you know, God knows where, to come up here and hear that.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so anyway, anybody have any questions about this?
100. Oh, didn't mean to interrupt. You know, I look at these, there's language I don't understand. I try and look it up. There's no way to look it up. There's a lot of nomenclature that, you know, there's a reference to this and that. I always come to the same conclusion. Better cell phone service. I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. Too much interference on the tower.
Yeah.
Matt?
No, I have, it's always the question of can they run the line inside the tower? And I think we've kind of filled it
Fix
up.
that with the bigger tower.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
So they're saying yes, they can put the line inside the tower?
then beyond that, it's all good.
I would just recommend that we make any motion conditional on painting it all the color to match, because I didn't see that it said anywhere in the submission that.
Can
when I
you
talked
paint
to-
all this stuff?
Yeah. mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
It-
Well, okay,
It's,
there you
yep,
go.
Exactly.
Do they have any issues?
It's all painted currently up
Already
there,
covered
the
my
existing
questions.
stuff. Yep,
Okay.
okay.
No red ones up there?
No, no
Mix it
red
up?
ones.
Bless you.
They slip some white ones in every once in a while. Every once in a while, I have to call them and say, hey, there's one you didn't paint in.
there you go, Mike. On
Yeah.
it, man. That's awesome.
Okay, so we need a motion with Mike's addition to it.
I don't remember our action. Move to put forward as submitted?
I'm not sure. Here, let's see what this one
Are
is.
we
How about
approving?
Move to
or forwarding?
approve with the
Yeah, we can
condition that it be
approve.
painted to match?
Thank you. And painted to match. Thank you.
Second?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Good, good. I don't know, if you get, no, who was here? I know Carol was and probably Neil was when the tower first went up.
Yeah.
And they brought in the options for towers. One of them being a 200-foot long or tall palm tree.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see those things in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Well, so the last thing under staff report there, Neil sent me his suggestions on the red line of our amendments to the sign code. And I thought he had some good suggestions there, so I incorporated them into the version that I sent out to all of you.
Yes.
Did anyone have any thoughts or comments on that?
No, I was, geez, Neil read this stuff and.
Neil's all over it.
I didn't, by the way, I didn't read the whole thing. I kind of skipped through and found certain paragraphs where certain things were missing,
Right, yeah.
and others where I didn't agree with it.
Well, you may go back and read the whole thing now, and we'll do an addendum on,
Well, what I was finding was certain things like if it said something should be, as an example, it would include the keys and the box. And it's almost like whoever wrote that doesn't realize that those are limiting statements, that when you say including this and that, that excludes everything else. And I think in a lot of cases, what they meant was, that was an example of the types of things, as versus the only things that are included. So they need to put the words including but not limited to, or something like that. That's something that the lawyer should be picking up.
Yeah, right.
And I noticed a few things like that, and then I noticed the one on the height of the signs, that it said above grade, but it didn't say that you couldn't build a mound right where you wanted the sign that was 4 feet high and end up with a sign
Yeah,
4 feet higher than
right.
that.
That's
It
what
didn't
the
say
North
that.
Shore, is that the one that, the North
Yeah.
Shore one that you get all
Yeah,
upset?
Yeah, still
yeah,
am.
that's the
Still,
one
still
that,
upset about?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't see anything. It's not this big. Because I'm old.
So that's the type of things I was looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah, great, thanks.
Nice work.
Yep.
okay. Anything
Yeah,
else?
I think Neil had a lot of good stuff. I think there's probably still a few more things to talk about, and it was so helpful to have your list, because, well, I didn't read it word for word either, but I'm not saying that out loud, am I? Don't tell anybody. So, yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with Neil's first, second, third comments. At 10:10:14, you know, where it refers to awning signs, I've always found that confusing. You know, we're saying that the awning is a sign. I think we could maybe fix that language. That's 10:10:14. And Neil wrote a comment about it. You know, maybe instead of awning signs, it could say awnings and their signage, because it's never made sense to me. Awning signs are only permitted on multi-tenant buildings should really say, I think, awnings and their signage are only permitted if the property owner has obtained approval from the Architectural Board of Review of the color palette. That's 10:10:14. You know, the way this is written, it was like the awnings are a sign. And this is the only place we say anything about awnings, so we're actually regulating awnings here too. The nomenclature just is confusing to me.
Right.
So if it could say awnings and their signage as a substitute for just plain awning signs,
Okay,
that would help me with the clarity.
right.
Neil also commented, what about the requirement that it should be 1.5 inches in height? Yeah, I'm with Neil on that. Yeah, just say they can have 15% per window, and they can put what they want, hours, product. You know, I don't really want to have to do what we did last time where we talked about, well, you know, do you want to put this first or that first, and this could be bigger, and this could have more hierarchy, and, you know, it's fine to be helpful when people ask for our advice, but, you know, we don't really need to be doing that. I'm good with 15%, and they can put whatever they want in there.
That was a frustrating one.
That was, you know, but we also have a petitioner who's come in and asked our advice on an incredible number of tiny things in repeated meetings, which we have to like, right?
Yeah.
And it's also helped us figure out what we think, too, so it was useful in that way. Neil's comment about earthen bump, I think all you have to do is say the existing grade. Just put in the word existing, and you've covered it. But it's a great catch, because we've had some funny things come in with signs. Whatever we write, there's always a loophole, so it's good to try and catch it. And I did print out something to bring in, because this continues to bug me. Thank you. A while ago, I think winter, I wanted to get moving on dark sky stuff, which we refer to verbally, and that's fine with me. If we don't codify dark sky at all, we don't have to, as long as we all agree on what our goals are. We've seen this little picture of, you know, approved fixtures before. I just thought I'd reprint it because I was in the process of pulling stuff. But anytime we do lighting, I think we have an opportunity to tune up what we have. So I did highlight something in pencil in the middle of your page, and I think we need to work this somehow into sign illumination. So I'm going to stop while you have a moment to read what I boxed out in pencil. So I was granny nanny last week in Chicago, and the grocery store across the street from the kids' wonderful condo was not there. It was a hole in the ground. We knew it was coming, but the sign is on all night long. This is in Chicago, there's an ordinance there too. I don't know how they do or don't enforce it. There are sometimes people working there late cleaning, there are sometimes people there early, there are sometimes, security officers, but, basically they forget to turn the signage and other site lighting on and off. It's really annoying because it's straight out the window, right across the street, they're not recessed with a lawn, it's right there in your face. So it was really bugging me. So when it comes to signage illumination, why can't we just start saying these things? Saying that the purpose of signage illumination is that it should only be on when needed, it should only light the area that needs it, it should be no brighter than necessary, which we say all the time. We even threaten to come back and tell them to dim it, which, we basically don't do, but we try and say that. Minimize blue light emissions, which there's all kinds of studies on. And be fully shielded. I crossed out pointing downward because that's obviously of no help when you're doing face lighting of a sign. It's not going to point down. And fully shielded is, also a little complicated. With the Park District, we had, someone from, 800 feet away come in and say, he's looking up into that light. And, the Park District did tell us, oh yeah, well, we canted it at 4 degrees because it worked better that way, which is not actually what we approve. We approve no throw above horizontal, but there's a lot of stuff we don't say, and a person is never going to think about these things if we don't say them. So I think somewhere in illumination of signs, we need to get these phrases in.
Can this just be included, not as a code piece, but I don't know how you put this into the some code, without it being an ordinance, and, paragraph numbers, and if you don't comply, your first child goes, all that kind of stuff that's in there. Because this is like an interesting guideline, it's almost like if you had design guidelines of, this must be like this and so forth.
Well, yeah, if we had design guidelines, we could include this in them, but we wrote design guidelines for the downtown only, but we don't really generally have design guidelines for everything, do we?
No.
No, I put this on, the first, whatever, under illumination of signs, because they're performance goals.
It's also just general illumination.
Right.
Yeah, if we ever get to it.
You talk about shielding from the neighbors and all that kind of thing.
We do, and it's wonderful when the church comes in and they don't want to do any big deal lighting that, makes it look like a carnival, that they want to do the absolute minimum. It's wonderful when someone is that sensitive, but it doesn't always happen. And signage people are probably the most, often in the other direction. It's the outdoor signage people that have fought the hardest against any of the dark sky provisions because they are the most affected by it. So it makes sense. It does affect their livelihood, but they've been very actively against dark sky provisions. So again, it needs to be said. If you believe it, it needs to be said.
So, I believe it was the Sustainability Committee, is that the one that's looking at this also?
They are, yeah, they are also.
It'd be nice
looking
if
at it.
things got
Right.
coordinated whenever they get finished, so,
Right, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, and this is all straight out of dark sky, but under illumination of signs, signage people should see it.
Right. Yeah, that's not a bad idea to include it in the sign code, too. The one thing we might want to clarify is the be fully shielded. I assume we're talking about lights that are externally illuminating signs, not light coming through the face of the sign for that one. That's probably one thing we'd want to clarify in the sign code.
I think a real good example of that is this one right down here, where they show, this one is not acceptable, and then 2 to the right, there's a similar fixture that the light bulb is just up in the like the canopy. It shields light from going out, and some of it from going up in the air.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes
I
people.
think this is, if it was feasible to add this to it, this is so descriptive of what you're talking about as compared to the write-up.
Yeah.
Right. I think this could be a handout separate from the ordinance that we could hand out to
That's what I'm thinking,
applicants.
is there some
Yeah.
way to do that? And, you know, it seems to me like most people are sort of on that track as in terms of just general lighting.
Right.
Residential, not so much.
I have to admit, on the train station under the platform, we did the drop lens canopy fixtures on purpose because the old fixtures created a pool of bright light and then darkness around it, and the drop lens spreads that very evenly under the whole canopy. So I'm not sure that it's always a bad thing to do that one.
Well, if people are looking for the period look, they're going to want to see that glowing lens. So there are times when you specifically don't do it, I suppose. The historic look is not a shielded fixture.
Right, yeah.
But saying illumination of signs, you know, that they should only be on when needed, boy, who could disagree with that? You know, they should only light the area that needs it. They should not be brighter than necessary, and we've never figured out a good way to measure that, so all we can do is give that kind
We
of,
got nits in there, I think, is it, we talk about nits.
yes.
Wasn't that the term? Something that none of us knows.
Hey, I had to look up lumens for the last petitioner, so, you know.
All right, what else? Can we, no,
Well, I'm proposing that this be included in the ordinance before it goes to the lawyers. That it be part of illumination of signs, that it have its own A, B, C, or D.
you could just do that.
Yep, so we can make a motion.
Are we gonna write should or shall?
Ought to.
That's a big deal. Because when you say lighting should, that gives them an out.
Yeah.
It just does.
If you want it to be shall, that means you want it to be.
Well, yeah, and then shall is the normal language for the code, like a sign code.
Right. So I think we should say lighting shall. And then it's a,
Right.
Okay?
So would someone like to make a motion to approve the sign code with these amendments?
Well, if I were to make the motion, I would include in 1010-8, illumination of signs, I think A would say, pretty much this language, it would say, to minimize light pollution, sign lighting shall only be on when needed, only light the area that needs it, be no brighter than necessary, minimize blue light emissions, and be fully shielded.
And we're not taking any existing language out of the ordinance, we're adding this
Just adding to
language.
it.
Well, there may be some redundancies that I have not caught, but,
Okay,
you know, I think the principle of the
But the
thing is what you
is
start with.
okay as long as it doesn't
conflict,
conflict.
yeah, okay.
did you want to make these diagrams part of an appendix, or you're just going to hand it out? Like, is there like reference appendix, blah, 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 for the shielded part?
That's the word I was trying to think of before. If you make it an appendix, then the diagrams.
Yeah,
We don't have any appendixes other than,
right, we don't.
let's start one.
Yeah,
Well, Dark Sky has model ordinances that maybe, you know, the SEC group is going to work on, so,
Or maybe you can even say reference something.
but nobody's going to work on signs but us, so, by golly,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll talk to our village attorney on how he thinks is the best way to reference it as an appendix or how.
Thank
So
you.
is there,
Okay.
So my motion is to add the verbal language to 1010-8, illumination of signs.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then do we do the same with Neil's? Do we have to,
I thought that motion was including that.
And Neil's.
This draft was theirs.
Okay,
amendments,
great.
right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
everyone thought?
And Neil's.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, some of the other things we talked about, adding the word existing grade.
Yeah.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
good job.
Okay,
That's
Good
good.
work.
Another motion, I move we adjourn.
okay.
Okay.
Second.
Second, all right, Ed wants to go, so do I. All in favor of going away?
Is,
Aye. We're done.
shove the paper in there.
Yeah.
I think the microphone for the television.
You get to keep that?
Done, okay.
Sure.